An interview with my grandmother, Philomena Steigerwald. Today is March 30th, 2014. I'd like to start off by saying thank you for meeting with me today.
You're welcome.
How are you doing this morning?
Just fine.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'd like to talk to you about some of your life experiences. Starting off with that, tell me about your parents and where they're from.
Okay, my parents are both from Italy. They came to the United States in 1920. All their records are at Ellis Island. It's very interesting to go and pull up the records that tells the ship they were on, who sponsored them, how much money, all their health conditions, and it's and where they were going to go to live here, who was sponsoring them, and it's all very interesting.
Great. How many siblings do you have?
My parents had 9 children, and they're all born in the United States. We had 6 boys and 3 girls.
Wonderful. What was it like being one of 9 children?
Well, it was a little bit different, as my mother died at age 36 from breast cancer. So the children were kind of split up between the relatives. And a lot of us grew up with my grandmother and aunts.
That was very interesting. What was childhood like?
Well, it was, in those times, it was, we did a lot of playing outside. We did, helped with the housework. We helped Grandma had a big garden. She grew her own vegetables, and we helped with that. She did her own canning. So we did a lot of things the kids don't do today. We were outdoors mainly.
Outdoors. Speaking of outdoors and not like it is now, what was school like for you?
School, let's see, we went to elementary school. We went to Christopher Columbus School through 9th grade, and then we went to Binghamton North High School.
Wow.
And I was born in Binghamton, New York, and I lived there for 25 years.
Very nice. And as far as Grandpa goes, is that where you met Grandpa?
No, Grandpa actually was born in Dunmore, Pennsylvania, but they lived in New York, Johnson City, New York. And that's just a suburb of Binghamton.
Okay, and how'd you meet Grandpa?
At that time, we went to the big band dances. It was always a group of girls, a group of boys. And we met there on Saturday night at the Pavilion at one of the dances.
Cool, cool. Well, what was your first date? What'd you guys do?
Let's see, that was Grandpa was in college, and he was working at the grocery store on weekends, and during his break he called me, asked me to go to the movies with his brother and his brother's girlfriend. And I finally said, okay, I would go.
How many calls did it take?
Well, just a couple.
Just a couple? Great. As far as dating, how was dating then compared to what you would perceive dating as now?
I think it was pretty formal. We went out to dinner, a nice dinner. We dressed nicely. When we went to the movies, we dressed very nicely. The girls always wore gloves and nice clothes. And, jeans in those days was for cleaning, not for going out. So it was a little more dress up.
During your dating period, I guess it was around the Korean War?
Yes.
How did the Korean War affect the dating and the relationship?
Well, at that time, they would allow you to graduate from college if you were in college. And then 6 months later, you got your little notice. And so you were required to spend 2 years in the service, which Grandpa did.
Where was he stationed?
Grandpa was stationed over in Germany.
Germany. What type of communication did you have when he was overseas?
Just everyday mail.
Everyday mail?
Everyday mail. Mostly every day.
That's funny. How long from you when you first met him to the time that you actually got married? How long was that?
About 5 years.
5 years.
5 years.
What type of proposal did he do? Was it very memorable?
Yes, it was before he went overseas.
Oh, was it really?
It was before he went overseas. I had my engagement ring. He
Cool.
was overseas for a year and a half, and when he was over there, did mostly aerial photos,
Oh, I didn't know that. Cool.
and so he has a lot of copies of those. And while he was over there, he took advantage of being overseas and did a lot of traveling
Did you?
on his furloughs. He
Oh,
did
awesome.
his furloughs.
Then once you got married, how did you end up in Oklahoma?
Well, so we got married June 25th, 1955. And we moved south in September 55. Your grandpa was a geophysicist, and he had a job with Continental Oil Company in Midland, Texas.
Wow.
So we packed our little car and moved down to Midland, Texas. And that was the beginning. But in those days, they always sent them out to the field to learn the industry from the bottom up. So that meant we were on a crew and we traveled the first 2 years. Every 6 weeks we moved from New Mexico, Tatum, New Mexico, down to Iran and back and forth.
Did you have any children during the midst of moving back and forth or moving around?
We started, yes, Joe Paul was born in May of 1956. Yes, they went right along with us.
How was moving that frequently with children?
Well, it wasn't, we had a lot of friends on the crew and that we were on the same boat, and that was just part of the job.
Just kind of the whole community kind of moved around?
We all moved together.
Wonderful, wonderful. So how many children did you end up having?
We ended up having 7 children.
7.
Joseph and Mary, Patricia, Gerald, Daniel, Charlie, and Irene.
Awesome. Well, with 7 children, how did you spend your spare time with Grandpa?
Well, we had to travel. In some places we had to travel 20, 25 miles to church, or sometimes 20 miles for the big grocery store. And we spent a lot of time socializing with the crew members because we're all in the same boat. But when we'd have the big parties, which the powder companies or the companies put on, and everybody dressed in their best bib and tucker, we went out for a steak dinner and then did the Texas Bounce, which was a lot different than the big bands.
Wonderful. Actually, when you got married, where did you spend your honeymoon?
Well, at Lake George.
Lake George?
Lake George, New York, upper New York, and we went up to, took the cog rail up to Mount Washington, for the cog rail, and it was a beautiful day on the bottom, and we got up on the top and it was raining. So that was kind of chuck for nothing.
That's great, great. I'm assuming that you're retired now.
Yes.
Yes. When you both retired, how did you spend your time? When the kids were out of the house, how did you occupy yourselves?
Well, Grandpa spent 20 years of his retirement associated with the foster grandparents, and he volunteered 4 hours every school day at Monroe School, working with the special ed students.
Oh, wow.
And I spent the time volunteering at Deaconess Hospital, 1 day a week in recovery room, and then doing work at church.
Worked at church. What were some of your hobbies or some of your grandpa's hobbies as well?
Well, your grandpa loved to make his own models for airplanes. He built several boats, a couple sailboats, and the Big Blue that we called it. And he made these, but the airplanes, he made them for the church bazaar so the ladies could sell them to different people, to different kids. Another thing we did is we did a lot of traveling. We traveled to Italy, and England, and Ireland, Switzerland, and we took a cruise to the Panama Canal, which was very interesting. One of our last big trips was to Alaska, which we enjoyed that, and we've traveled up and down the East Coast and the West Coast.
Wonderful, wonderful. As far as grandchildren, do you have any? And if so, how many?
Oh yes, we have 22 grandchildren and one great-granddaughter.
With another great-grandson on the way?
Son, another great-grandson on the way.
What are some of the things that you're most proud of that you've accomplished?
What I'm most proud of are my children and my grandchildren and my great-granddaughter. And they're all, our children have been a wonderful part of our life. And our grandchildren have been. They've brought us many joys. And we're proud of all of them.
What are some of your fondest memories?
Fondest memories? Oh, they've been, there's a lot of them. There are a lot of, we've had a lot of good times. We've had, getting our marriage, then able to celebrate our 25th anniversary, and able to celebrate our 50th anniversary, and we'll be just a couple of years short of celebrating our 60th. So our fondest memories are, there's not anything special. It's just been a good life.
Good life? Sounds like it's been wonderful.
Grandpa was a special person. He was a very kind person. He was not judgmental. And he always tried to seek out the good in people. So we had a very good life, and I'm a very fortunate person.
Well, I really do appreciate your time and all the information. It's been great learning things that I didn't know, and I'm sure that there's plenty of people out there that are going to love hearing and watching this.
Well, I've enjoyed this, and I'm glad to be part of your education. Your grandfather and I would be very, very proud. I know your grandpa will be, and I am, that you are continuing your education. And I hope that I'm alive to see you complete it.
I'm sure you will be. It won't be too long.
I hope so.
Well, thank you very much, Grandma.
You're welcome.